So welcome. My name is Hector. I'm going to be your guide to this, the Ccm Mt230. I bought this 18 months ago from Nathan, DorothySpeedShop.com, or Nathan the Postman, as he is on socials. He got 80 of these in a couple of containers, old stock basically from Ccm. Built for a military contract some time ago and then just sat in a container. So it registers as a new bike, but as you can see from it, it's quite an old-fashioned bike. And the short story so you don't need to watch the whole of this review, is that the bike is exactly as described by Nathan. It's worked really well for me as a little green laning bike down here in Devon. It's Chinese, so it's a Chinese buyer beware bike. By that I mean it's pre the Chinese manufacturers like CF Moto and Vosges who've come into the European market with things like dealer networks and support and things that you just never had back in the day for these Chinese bikes. So it's a buyer beware style Chinese bike, but there is a really strong community of people who bought these and are using them and find them really useful. So on Facebook page, there's a Facebook page, Ccm Mt230. Now, you should never listen to anybody unless you know who they are. I'm retired. I'm retired from everything, which means I no longer work. Used to be a DAS instructor, and I was a keen road rider for 40 years. Because I'm so bright, I waited till I was in my mid-60s before I started doing off-road riding. I'm 6 foot tall, I've got an inside leg of about 34 inches. So stood in front of this bike I look like a giant. I'm not, because as you probably gathered, this is a 15/16 scale model of a dual sport from back in the day. For me, it's exactly what I wanted. It's small, physically small, which is handy. Not only because I can easily get my foot down, flat foot or whatever they call it. It's only about 120 kilos, that's with some tools on it. So it's very easy to get on with. The foot pegs are a little far forwards. I put bar risers on, tilted the handlebars away from me, but as you can see, when I'm in a stood up position, it's all a little bit close. But it is physically small, it's easy for me to get my foot down and dab, and it's a great beginner bike for green laning. Well, I've found it a great beginner bike for green laning. Obviously the suspension is pretty limited. If you've ever ridden an enduro bike or something like that, there's nothing like that. The suspension is very limited, so you're very dependent on you being stood up and using your legs for suspension, basically. But it's easy, yeah. When you do sit down, all you really need to do is slow down so that you don't boing yourself off the bike. Let me just grab the camera. I'm going to talk a little bit about the rest of the bike. So, this bike's is a copy really. It's a Chinese copy of a copy of somebody's idea of a CRF 230F, or possibly an L. Don't confuse the CRF 230 with the common in Europe CRF 250s and 300s. There's nothing like that at all really. So the CRF 230 F wasn't really brought into the UK, and this is a Chinese copy of that idea basically. So if we start with the engine, so while it's branded Ccm, I think this is a Zhongsheng engine, but it's made under license by Junlin, or Linjun, I can never remember which way round it is. So it's marked as manufactured by them, but they don't make a large capacity. So large for them is 250cc. The biggest bike they make is a 250cc engine, but that's a twin. So this appears to be made under license from Zhongsheng by Junlin. But it is a Zhongsheng engine from what I can tell. And commonly these air-cooled ones have monikers like CY or CG, probably a nod to the CG 125 and 250s back in the day. And that's to distinguish them from the CB range, which tend to be the water-cooled ones. So there's some really good things about this. Yeah, it's got enough power, but certainly no power, and is not powerful. It's carbed, which means that it's really easy to live with. You get that beautiful soft carburetted delivery, and for green laning, it's kind of ideal. I've not had any problems with the engine. You can see on the side there, I changed the oil out. It's 300, 500, 1,500, 2,500, and 3,250 miles. It's got a sight glass, makes it really easy. It's got an oil strainer rather than oil filter. So down here is the plug. Take that off, the little oil strainer in there. First couple of oil changes, that had a few sparkles in it, but it's settled down now. I put a gold top or gold plug on, so a magnetic plug. That started off with a little bit of swarf, and that amount of swarf has gone down to a completely normal level. So my engine now is completely run in. What you probably want to know is what the top speed is. Whee! It's about 55 miles an hour with road tyres that it comes with, and the standard gearing of 13 on the front, 39 on the back. Even then, yeah, 55 indicated is screaming along a little bit. It's comfortable and you can carry on at 55, but you're right at the top of the limit of what it is. So it's not very roadable. Some people can you can fit a 14 tooth sprocket on the front just to make it a little bit more roadable. Doesn't make it any faster, just makes it less frenetic when it's at that top sort of speed. This is a plastic aftermarket part. The original metal covers a lot more, but it makes it quite difficult to clean all the mud out from behind the sprocket. So hence that aftermarket part. I've changed the gearing on here to 13 on the front. On the back, I've got 45, so I've gone up 6 teeth. That means that in second gear, I can tackle all the gnarly stuff around here quite happily. And for some of the lanes, or most of the lanes, I'm doing in third gear, sometimes in fourth gear for some of those farm tracks that are in good condition. You can see here, this is not an original chain. This is a quality DID chain, a VX3. The original chain is like a motocross chain, so it's got no O-rings or any corded seals at all. So you need to wash it and clean it and oil it every single time you use it. And you'll get maybe 500 to 1,000 miles out of the original chain. Yeah, it's not a very good quality chain, but it's because of the type of chain that it is. You can see here that that's not standard. The standard one is rubber rather than plastic. So the swing arm guard is rubber rather than plastic. And the problem with that is that mine was starting to wear pretty much. So I took that off and started the sort of journey of looking at what it's like having a Chinese bike. You think, oh, well, CRF 230, I'll go and buy a CRF 230 bit of plastic chain guard, only to discover the swing arm is nothing like a CRF 230. Then you start buying some other ones and, trying to adapt them. But in the end, I just gave up because I happened to have some nylon 60. I made that. And obviously this nylon 61 is going to last me forever. Something else that's different is this. Obviously I put a 45 on the back rather than a 39. That means that that's bigger, which means this needs to be lower. So I made a plate just to drop the original chain guard down. But the reality is that one from AliExpress works pretty well as well. So yeah, I've changed the gearing to make it work for me. The original tyres on it were, as you often get, 50-50 tyres. And I've since discovered that 50-50 means they're 50% road tyres, and the other 50 means they vaguely look like off-road tyres but don't really work as off-road tyres. I'm a member of the TRF. When you do some of the TRF events that are held on private land, Often the private landowners require that you've got a trials tyre on the back. So I bought a Maxxis trials tyre on the back. Absolutely spectacular tyre. Spectacular on slippy when wet. North Devon slate that we have here. So slab rocks that are really slippery when they're wet. Those Max trials work absolutely phenomenally. They're incredibly soft tyres with big soft knobbles on. They do wear very quickly on the road. They're quite expensive and they're not really great for winter. So at the moment we're in winter setup on these tyres. So these are Max Cross. So they're in theory most cross tyres, but are road legal just. And they're intermediate, so they're actually pretty hard. So the knobbles on them are pretty hard. Now obviously you need to change your mindset when you go ride these on the road. Yep, knobblies on the road, especially wet tarmac, require a little bit of adjustment in your head. Having said that, these work pretty well on the road. So that's what I've changed to make this bike, in effect, good for the trails. Now my bike had a particularly shonky clutch, so you'd let the clutch out, it'd start to grip, yeah, and at the end it would just go clonk, yeah. It's got better over time, so I've concluded that the reason for that is that these engines were built up and then stuck in a container, and then somebody dragged them out of a container, built up the bike and then stuck them back in the container. So it's been a long time since the oil's been sat in there, which has not been very kind for the clutches. I bought a replacement clutch pack to go in it from Nathan when he had the spares. I should explain the spares situation. Nathan got a whole bunch of spares, but he's passed those on now to a company called VLM, who've also got a few unregistered bikes available. Yeah, so he passed the spares on to them. So I bought a spare, and you can buy from VLM a spare clutch pack, or you can just go to China and buy a 30 quid clutch pack. It's going to cost you 30 quid to ship it to the UK, but you know, unless you can get free shipping on AliExpress or something. This is actually a slipper, got a slipper unit in the back, so it's actually a slipper clutch. But mine's getting better all the time. I'll probably leave it because it's now good enough with this clutch ease on. That's what this thing is. It's a clutch ease. Just change it. It's got a little cam in there just to give you a little bit more control over the clutch action. So the original bike comes with normal style wing mirrors. Yeah, obviously you need to be careful with those. If you drop those and you're unlucky and the end mirror doesn't just tweak up, then you just crack this base here. So it's worth just throwing those away straight away and getting foldable mirrors. Really, these aren't quality foldable mirrors. These are cheap foldable mirrors. The original hand guards are plastic. Yep, you can drop them 3 or 4 times before they're useless. So you take those off. These are 20 quid Acerbis copies, which are aluminium bar, which is fantastic. They're completely bulletproof. Problem is when you start making those bulletproof, the next weak point is obviously the handlebars. So I'm on the second handlebar. Just as I'm on the second chain, I'm on the second front mud guard as well. I managed to crack that one off. Got a handle here that I put on just to help me pull it out of the mud plugs and mud holes. And this rack at the back is super handy for that as well. So, other things that are consumables. I'm on the second gear shift lever as well. Obviously, go through a little bit of brush or whatever. That'll just foldable tip at the end. Yeah, it's pretty good. This is just sheet, which is great because you can bend it 4 or 5 times and bend it back on the trail 4 or 5 times until the spot welds in here start to go. So I'm on the second gear shift lever. I'm playing around with sort of aftermarket gear shift levers at the moment. But this one, the original one, is actually pretty good. It seems a bit strange that it's only spot welded on that side, but it means you're unlikely to damage the gear change shaft, however hard you hit it, and it's easy-ish to bend back into place on the trails. Round this side, some strangeness here. Got a kickstart. I tied this kickstart up because I kept rubbing it with my boots and engaging the starter, which is not a great idea. So that's just tied up. But a lot of people just take them off. Yeah. Same thing here. The original has got a folding tip on the brake lever, but obviously at some point that just breaks off. So you've got to grind it off, drill it. So I've got to drill a couple of holes in here so I can change the position of it and use these aluminium, which are going to break, but they're sacrificial parts really. Yeah, so I've got 3 or 4 of those ready to just swap them out when they go. Other things, the original choke cable here, it got rusty inside. That comes off in your hands. It's done that for a few of us. So when I talk about parts, you go along to VLM and say, have you got a choke cable? And they're likely to say no. Have you got a spare guard for a spare chain guard for the swing arm? No. Yeah. But they've got swing arms, engines, forks, you know, lots of other stuff. Brake calipers, speedos, clocks, you know, all sorts of stuff. But there's some of the little things that they haven't got. Not a problem. You know, this is just a couple of quid for a universal, you know, for a universal old-fashioned choke. You just need to adapt it a little bit. Yeah, so those are the sorts of things that are on here. So this worked really well for me, but I have to say I maintain all my own bikes, always have done, do my own tyres. So this era of Chinese bike, and I'd probably say any off-road bike, you have to accept that you need to be a little bit handy. Don't need to be a mechanic, but you have to be prepared to, 1, look after it, and 2, put in the effort to solve some of the little niggles of problems. Yeah, there's no dealer to ring up. There's no importer to go and whinge to. And there's no warehouse in Holland to go and buy spare parts from. Yeah. So the great things are about it, it's an oldish world, easy to ride, super soft delivery, relatively small and light bike, ideal for me as a beginner, but also ideal for the kind of lanes that we got here in Devon. The frustrations are that it's not really a very good, or it's not a very close copy of a CRF 230F. Yeah. So if you think, oh, well, I'll just go and get a CRF 230 hub or a CRF 230 wheel, it's not the same. Yeah, so the hubs are slightly different. You can source something very similar. In fact, I think VLM's got lots of front wheels, just no back wheels and hubs. So you can buy a Chinese back wheel and hub for almost no money. It requires adapting the spaces very, very slightly. I've not had to. The other thing that's, you know, particular to this bike and haven't found in China yet is the speedo. So you need a little bit of care with that. Other sort of things are, you know, this plate to keep the axle in place. When that goes, you know, an XR or a cheap XR copy from China kind of works as well. So everything is solvable, and there's a big community helping to solve things that really helps. So you can look at any part of a Chinese bike and say, well, look at this exhaust, you know, that's not going to last very long. That's fine, because a complete stainless steel replacement that a couple of people have already done was only 30 quid, I think. It's going to cost you more to get it shipped from China, obviously. There are under 100 quid, you get a complete stainless steel exhaust. So there's lots of things available for it. And the spares are held by VLM. So I'm very happy with it. Yeah. Would I buy it again? Yes, because I maintain all my own bikes, and I actually find it a bit of a challenge to keep on top of this and source how we're going to do this. It's a great way to spend £2,500 or much less than that now. Second-hand one's probably going for £1,500. You know, a second-hand one that hasn't been used is probably still £1,500. But they make very practical bikes for green laning around here. Yeah, I've got other bikes, but when the going gets tough, when it's sloppy and muddy out there, or I've got to go out with some people who perhaps on enduro bikes, I'll take this. I'm never going to be embarrassed, but I might be a little bit slower than them. So yeah, very successful. If you do decide to go for one of these, as I mentioned, there's a good community. It's worth going on to the community, the Facebook page, and asking your questions there. Lots of people are very happy to point you in the direction of people who are selling them, or point you in the direction of how to solve any of the problems that we've come up with. Yeah. So enjoy.